It's truly exciting. In fact, I have a reputation for being overexcited about this stuff sometimes.
They can make quite a lot of money.
Some people think I'm a mad scientist, and, well, I am.
You know, if you were able to ask your great-grandmother or grandfather a few questions 100 or so years ago, you might be surprised at the answers. For instance, if you ask them if they thought a tiny piece of film just like this would someday revolutionize everything we think, act, dress, speak, and do, they'd probably thought you'd gone a little loco. They'd wonder whether you'd taken leave of your senses, partaken of a little too much cough syrup, or whether you were just plain touched. Back then, it was a lot more important to have money or resources for, a down payment on a small house or a large horse. Certainly, it was important to have gleaming new farm equipment if you could afford it, and if not, mildly tarnished, used farm equipment would do. We were still very much an agricultural society then, although the big urban centers were teeming with lots of us too. It was important to stay relatively fashionable. We seemed to have a thing back then about looking presentable. So men wore high-starched collars, ties that were always tied, and bowlers outdoors, whatever the weather. We entertained ourselves with books and Sunday rides, evening strolls, checkers, and chess. The inventors of Monopoly and Scrabble hadn't even been born yet. Baseball was becoming very popular, and when possible, it was a real treat, available mostly in the big cities. We would attend theater, or as it was known to most of us back then, vaudeville. So, to show great-grandfather or grandmother these little pieces of film and say they would someday impact everything in their lives was just lunacy. But you know what? It did impact everything we do and everything we are. And to this very day, as you are watching this, it still impacts most of our lives in some way, most of the time. For better or worse, it is entertainment through the medium of the motion picture. See if some of this is familiar to you. See what we mean? Every one of you watching was probably able to immediately recognize at least some of the characters, characterizations, and sequences. What you don't see, though, are the many stars who work behind the lens. It's those people who make these people possible. And a lot of their jobs would probably amaze you. One of those jobs, called a Foley artist, helped us make a lot of noise.
This thing right here on the little pivot is a crash box, kind of a generic sound for anything that falls over. It's basically just a box filled with forks and knives and tin cans and dishes and things, and there are two steel plates on either end with handles. And if you grab one handle and flip it over, you get your sound. It's always going to be a little different every time. This is a bizarre little item. It's a rain machine, not for wet rain, but the sound of rain hitting a window, which is kind of a subtle sound. If you turn this very slowly, these little bees that kind of look like Bo Derek's hairstyles make the tapping of rain on a window. These are Foley pits right here. These are for walking sounds. If we were doing, so let's say, an episode of Murder, She Wrote, chances are I'd have to get into some pretty big high heels and walk around here for Angela Lansbury. It's not something I'm very proud of, but I do. This is kind of interesting right here. All this spaghetti stuff down here basically it's tape, videotape, but it's for walking through leaves or bushes or something, and you can hear it right here. Foley is the art of sound effects for motion pictures and television. It was actually named after the very first sound effects man. His name was Jack Foley. He worked at Universal Studios back in the 1930s and 40s. He started as a film editor, and when they started putting sound into film, he was the one who noticed that not a lot of the sounds are picked up by the one microphone that was usually used to pick up the dialogue, the spoken word. So they developed at that time what they called sound replacement. And that was just going back over and adding in all the sounds that you were supposed to hear when they shot originally. So they concentrate on the dialogue and everything else that has to be added later. I guess about 95% of the sounds that you hear while you're watching any television show or movie have to be added by a Foley artist. When they're mixing it down in an engineer's booth, they usually have a mixer board with several tracks, usually I've seen 24, 48, 60, and each track has its own specific sound, so they can bump up the skid marks on a car, the skidding of a car, or they can add little sounds to it. A lot of these sounds can be recorded and then reproduced digitally, but most of it's hand done, even today. We have the wind machine here, canvas stretched over a wooden cylinder and turned either slowly or quickly to make the different sounds. Put some gusts in there. You can create quite a hurricane with that. Most of the times a Foley stage is kind of looks like a garage sale that exploded. It's got all sorts of stuff all over the floors, anything and anything that we can make sounds with.
It'll melt your teeth, kids. This is real fun.
This particular field I've kind of worked my way in through being an actor before and actually working here at Universal. I started acting out of high school, and just right out of high school I started acting professionally, and eventually worked my way here to Los Angeles. Stagecraft is what I took mostly, and we did learn about sound effects and sound for stage back then, and stagecraft and acting, just learning how to build sets and how to perform in front of them. So any type of theater courses will prepare you for film as well. Some of the skills that you would probably need for a job in Hollywood is to have some sort of performance background, which is good, because then even as a technical person, you'd be able to know what the actor is going through.
And to think, you get paid for doing this too.
I wouldn't be surprised if some people got on this stage and actually went on to become Foley artists because they're so interested in it. They'll, after the performance, they'll stay and ask all sorts of questions about how to break into becoming a sound effects technician and being a Foley artist or an actor or what have you. There's a lot of interest in Hollywood, and there's a lot of openings in Hollywood. As hard as it is to get into Hollywood, there's still an expanding technical end to this business that just keeps getting more and more interesting with digital effects like Jurassic Park and the Terminator, and just if you're into computers, keep pushing it because Hollywood will need you.
Hello? Hello?
The best way to work on a movie lot around Los Angeles is to start as a tour guide.
Hey, Inspector!
Run along, son.
Hey, you want to know something?
Being a tour guide, you generally don't have to wear those funny little uniforms anymore. And whether you're a tour guide at Yellowstone or Bedrock, it's always a good way to meet people. All sorts of people.
So nice to see ya.
Well, hi, May. How are you?
You know me, I'm always good.
Really?
Yeah, when I'm bad, I'm even better.
True that there's a lot of men in your life?
You know, it ain't the men in my life that counts, it's the life in my men. So listen, why don't you,
Did I say there are a lot of women with this job? A lot of beautiful women you run across in
who
this
wants
job?
a lot when you got me? I'm the only one that matters. You know what I mean?
It's a great opportunity. If you want to get your foot in the door, this is one of the best places to start. Because if you're an actor, you get to meet the casting people. If you're pursuing a career as a director, you get to meet all the people behind the scenes. If you're more of a technical person, you get to work over there. But this type of job gives you an opportunity to speak to the public, converse, and that's really a skill that you need when you're trying to meet all these people. If you're kind of shy and quiet, then they're not going to be that well impressed. So this gives you an opportunity to hone any sort of performing type skills. This is where you could start a career in Hollywood. A lot of people started out working here, doing what I'm doing, basically being a studio guide here at Universal Studios Hollywood. Then over there, we have the real studio over here. This is where we have production offices, casting offices, technical offices. And when we're not giving our tram rides or working in our shows, we spend a little time going over there, meeting people, making contacts, dropping off pictures and resumes, and making some good friends. Eventually, we hope to work on that particular side of the fence over there with Universal Studios. This house behind me was used in the 60s for a situation comedy called The Munsters.
The Munsters house was opened up, complete with fake bats and a robotic Frankenstein.
Nowadays it looks like this because this is our Colonial Street and it's supposed to be a mainstream America setting. So we want it to blend in with the rest of the background. So if you ever wanted to work in a job like this, this is perfect. If you're one of those guys that likes to take woodshop classes and then you start working on stuff and you get tired of looking at it and you do something else, this is the best thing because as soon as they're done with one production, and they get a job, they have to go over, take out everything they first did, and then redo it. And one day, they're gonna make it look like it's a brand new house. Nobody's lived there before. The next day, somebody's gonna come by and say, I need this house to look like it's 100 years old. So if you love the carpentry stuff, if you love the artistic stuff, mixing paints, working with different colors and shadings, this is the best thing for you. Well, in school, I was one of the drama club people, so I took a lot of acting, a lot of performance courses, so I was really one of those acting type people. I wasn't more the athletic type. Of course, obviously drama was very important to me and all of my friends in school. We didn't have a very elaborate and technical drama department, so not only were we working on stage and acting out the plays that we put together, we also were working behind the scenes, building our own sets, designing our own lighting equipment, and that was a lot of fun, but we really wanted to do the shows and we wanted to do them right, so we worked extra hard to make sure that everything was perfect. Of course, some of the other stuff that we had to take were the English classes because a lot of us were writing our own stuff and performing them on stage, so we wanted to make sure that we did them right. We studied a little bit of history because a lot of times we were building sets that were from different time periods, and we only knew what we saw in our houses, and if we did something that was at the turn of the century, we had to research in the library and get pictures of what houses looked like, what offices would have looked like. And then we got to travel around and we got to borrow furniture and stuff like that. So if you really want to do it, you really have to do it. You really have to persevere, and you really have to love what you're doing. If you don't love what you're doing, you might as well start looking for something else now. Because if you're in it for the money, then you might have to wait a little while before you start getting those big bucks rolling in. So I think the most important thing this time, if you love doing it, keep doing it, make the contacts so you can actually make a really good living at it. And if you're not making that great of a living at it, at least you're doing something you really, really love to do.
The entertainment industry is not one where you can just hang around and hope to get noticed. You gotta pipe up, or you'll probably never move up.
Oh, Fred.
We had the concept of taking the Flintstones to a new genre. So we started brainstorming on it and thought we have the magic of the cartoons of the 60s, and now of course we have the wonderful Amblin Entertainment film, and we'd read the script and we knew all that they were doing as far as bringing all the wonderful set pieces, you know, what the lawnmower is, what the garbage disposal is, all of that to life. And we decided to kind of marry those two concepts, put it together, and go into the world of the Broadway musical. So that's what we did. We've created a 25-minute Broadway musical here. It's structured like a Broadway musical. The talent of the cast is a Broadway musical. I put together all my crony friends where we all are from the world of legitimate theater, and hence the Flintstone show here. The job as a producer is to oversee the entire project, to make sure you have the right players in position, to make sure you stay on budget, to make sure that you stay on schedule. It's like building the outline when you're in school and you make an outline. The producer watches all the fine points of the outline and hires all the people to fill in everything. And then as a producer, I hired myself as the writer and director. It works beautifully that way. There are so many elements in the pot. It's like a big recipe that has a lot of chocolate chips, if you will. It's like making chocolate chip cookies, and there might be 2 or 3 chips out, but you still have a cookie. And so occasionally you have to work around some of these things. This is true. You'll find this in legitimate theater. You'll find this at Broadway houses. You'll find this in touring companies, especially, and you'll have to make adjustments to things. And that's part of the skill here, is to make those adjustments on a daily basis and still have a wonderful show for our audience.
Fred, can you pick up some brontosaurus ribs on your way home from work?
The first thing I would say to you is study. Learn everything you can learn. And I was fortunate to go to school, and I learned a lot from going to school. So I'm one of those people that really believes in that. That's not a hype. I'm telling you that because I believe in it. I really believe you can get fabulous educational backgrounds. I mean, you want to study film, you end up at NYU or USC, and you're getting yourself a background that take a look at all our top film directors that you're going to see they have. So it speaks for itself. It really is important to study. And then continue to study. When you get out of school, continue to study. I don't care whether you're an actor or director, whatever you are, you have to continue to study.
Wilma! Wilma! Where are you? Over here, Billy. I'm making the salad for dinner.
I was exposed to theater. I was in theater in high school. I majored in theater. I have a master's in theater. So it was always the direction I was going. My emphasis changed about 15 years ago, really, to directing. I started out as a performer and then moved into directing. So I have the educational background to also back up what I'm doing. And then mostly I did legitimate theater. A lot of musicals, a lot of what we call straight plays, a lot of comedies, and started several years ago creating original musical reviews and stunt shows, and that's what brought me to Universal Studios. You can go get ready for the next show now. Those of us who are in this business go into this business because we love it, and then, knock wood, we get lucky enough to make a living at it, and then one step follows the rest. It snowballs on us, but it's all very exciting.
Wilma, I got the job. Yabba-dabba-doo!
Oh my goodness, I just got a job as Betty Rubble.
Getting the job can get very hairy. You never know what shape or form it will come in.
Today, it is King Kong against you, thanks to one of the largest attractions at Universal Studios Hollywood. The challenging task of building the 30-foot animated Kong went to mechanical designer Bob Gurr, a master of animated figures.
I just couldn't wait to do it. And nobody's built one that's this big and this tall and this heavy and this amount of motions by a long shot. This is the big one.
Using a sophisticated computer, Gurr calculated complex procedures that would allow workers to build a machine that, when completed, would weigh close to 14,000 pounds.
We used a computer and a plotter to create a drawing, as you see here on the wall, which has had some color added to it so that you can see the different elements on it. It depicts the 30-foot tall King Kong figure with all of the structural elements that are going to go on the inside of the figure. Are you going to be able to get the speed up any faster with these same servos or not?
From giant eyeballs to Kong-sized hands, the construction of this figure was a massive undertaking. It took 5 months and utilized the expertise of 40 workmen. The sheer size of the figure was so large that it had to be built in 2 sections. With 600 pounds of fur on its framework, the finished product would display an impressive 29 movements.
We provided motions in the shoulders and the chest so that all the major sections of the body are literally in motion at all times.
Next, Gurr helped supervise the installation of Kong at his new home. And though he's proud of his state-of-the-art work, what he looks forward to is the reaction of the people confronted by King Kong for the first time.
If I look at the faces of people and I see them having a great time, well, that gives me a great time.
A career in entertainment, either in front of the camera lens or behind it, means you'll probably have to learn to wear several different hats, among other things. One good way to do that is to go where that sort of action is, the costume and prop department.
These are some of the things from Jurassic Park. We have dinosaurs' teeth, some of the small skulls. These little images here are what they use to make tracks of the dinosaurs, all the way from Jurassic Park tour guide maps, right on back through to larger tracks, some of the gloves that they used and some of the special glasses, but basically your hand prop items.
My background is not the normal studio's background. I was a national account sales rep with Allied Van Lines, did office and industrial moving as well as home moving and large-scale relocations of companies. I dealt with Universal Studios over a number of years, and as a matter of fact, I moved everything that you see in inventory here for them when they changed their locations. At that time, I performed well, and they offered me a job taking over the department. It's a very unusual job. It's never the same 2 days in a row. You have varying business aspects. You're dealing with all kinds of different customers, whether it be television features or just a basic television commercial. So no 2 days are the same, much less hour to hour. So it's a constant variety with high pressure, which gives you a chance to use your skills to stand out and to accomplish the jobs that you need to do. We've got things here from Back to the Future. We've got model sets of the train, the car. We've got Doc's thinking machines. We've got spaceship from Batteries Not Included, 2010, Buck Rogers, Battlestar Galactica. I even have some chairs from the original Phantom of the Opera. Basically speaking, everything that you're going to see within this location, and even the things that you don't see that are here, everything within this building and used within the studios has been used in either television or a film or feature. Otherwise, it wouldn't be here. We have a good selection of torture equipment, all the way from guillotines to stocks, bed of nails, pillars, and they work.
If you want to break into entertainment, you obviously need to crack the books. Or maybe you think you'll win the lottery and can buy your own studio.
A complete education, no matter what the subject. College degrees are always effective. Any kind of skilled knowledge that you can bring with you opens a door. Whether it be film, finance, business skills, or just general business. You need anytime. This is a business. This is not just an industry of creativity. It's still operated as a business. So you need all the skills that you would do if you went to another position in another job. What I'd recommend if you want to come in as a swing gain or on the prop master's crew, which is the people that actually dress the sets and handle the props, is to go out, beat the bushes on these independent productions. You need to spend time in the trenches. There's a series of books that you can read to help you with your furniture selections and things like that. Then, in order to move up into the ranks, you need to join a union.
Stand by. Rolling, boys, rolling. Bring them up. Action! Cut! Excellent.
Remember, in this life, it's probably going to have to be you who lights the fire under yourself.
Hi, we're standing behind the scenes at the Backdraft attraction at Universal Studios Hollywood. Backdraft is where we took the motion picture Backdraft and created an attraction, and our attempt was to try and get people to feel like they were in the middle of a firestorm, which is a recreation of the finale of the Backdraft movie. And we put you into the middle of a firestorm. There's two computer systems behind me in these racks. One controls the show elements or the action equipment, the things that fall around you and the sequencing of how things happen. The second computer system runs the fire system, so that it takes care of making sure igniters are on, the flames are burning, and you know, that everything is controlled and that there are elements within the attraction that are controlled. I was responsible for helping assist the design team in making things that could survive and that would be maintainable. My principal function with Universal Studios Hollywood is to maintain all the shows and attractions, to make them as they were the day they opened, to recreate the image that was in the mind of an artist and bring that to people every day. The hardest thing about my job is trying to recreate what the artist did.
above them, below them, on the sides. We're going to really make people feel like they've followed a fireman into a fire. I was in a movie theater watching another film, and they had the typical trailers, and I saw it, and the first thing I thought was, gee, that's terrific. That would be an absolute fabulous attraction.
Drobness and his team of pyrotechnicians went to work. First, testing fire effects on Universal's famed burning house, which was loaded with explosives and blown to the ground. The Inferno was then moved inside a massive soundstage on the lot.
This will be the largest amount of fire ever put inside of a building on a regular basis.
But the real challenge was to make it safe.
We try to get right on that edge where people really feel like they're in peril when they're in the attraction, but at the same time they're laughing because they know they're perfectly safe.
I have a Bachelor of Science degree in electronic engineering from the University of Southern California. I also have a master's degree in business from Pepperdine University. I got my start really in high school. I got involved with a high school drama program and hung around the drama department and learned everything I could about lighting and scenery. I then went to the University of Southern California and got my degree in electronics and decided that I wanted to do electronic devices for film and the amusement business. My academic advisor, of course, thought I was nuts, but I went and pursued the dream anyway. So luckily out of college, I went to a company in the entertainment field and got my start as a control systems engineer, making animatronics walk and talk and move.
Now, whatever you do, don't doze off during this next part. It could be important for your future, not necessarily where you're going after class, but where you're going with your life.
My advice to high school students would be to pursue your dream. If entertainment is where you want to go, then pursue it as vigorously as you could. Don't take no for an answer. Get the right educational training, stay in school, get your degree, have something of substance behind you to distinguish you from other people, but pursue your dream. It's, you know, in my situation, I had academic advisors telling me that I was nuts, but I still had a love of entertainment and decided that that's what I wanted to do with my life, and I think it's possible for anybody as long as you have the drive and desire to do it.
Check it out, okay?
Hollywood's top special effects experts have created a film that completely surrounds you. When combined with a computer-controlled DeLorean, the effect is stunning.
We have three technologies that we're using to create an alternative reality. The movement of the ride vehicle, our DeLorean, the visual aspect, which is this 80-foot diameter dome image, and the audio, which is an 11-channel stereo audio system that surrounds the audience.
And what we've done is taken the basic motion-based idea, put a time travel DeLorean based on the Back to the Future attraction, and we fly it through time and space, everywhere from 2015 to 1 million BC, Hill Valley. And it's really rewarding to see that sort of response to something that's taken a lot of time and effort and a lot of resources to put together, but it's really paid off and people are really excited about it.
We bumped him! The impact between the two vehicles should send us straight back to the Institute. What do you mean we're in the future? October 21st, 2015. First, you've got to get out and change clothes.
If you're into computers, keep pushing it because Hollywood will need you.
Your primary focus is not really on how much you get paid. You get paid, you know, a decent livable wage, but that's not the main thing. The main thing here is to pursue the long-term goals that you have here.
Every pyro that goes off near a person, there has to be a safety button pushed first before it can go off.
All our guns are equipped with a radio transmitter inside, and we press a button on the guns and it goes up to our technical director up in the booth. He fires the pyro and the sound effects, and it makes it look as though we've caused the explosion.
First thing that happens is that you pull into the subway station on a tram, and immediately upon that, you get this, starts shaking, this huge shaking movement. Large ceiling slab, 40 feet long, with a truck comes careening down and crashes down. Then, a subway train coming from the opposing tunnel comes running in, screeches in. Just when you think everything's all over, there's this huge 60,000-gallon flood that comes down right at you, knocking over, careening over the steps and stairwells, knocking down things, turnstiles and trash cans and everything, and comes right over at you and drops right in front of you. Some of it gets on you, but that's okay. That's what it's all about. There is an applause that happens after the show, and that's a real accomplishment to have an animated attraction with not one actor in it receive applause as you go out of the show.